Welcome to The Brave Journey Within with Jim and Jenn. This show is about the spiritual journey and all of the challenges, healing, wisdom, and consciousness expansion experienced along the way.
Welcome back, Jen, from your trip into another edition of The Brave Journey Within with Jim and Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Jim. How you doing?
Hanging in there. There's a lot going on in the world.
Yeah, we woke up this morning to the bridge collapse, the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Yeah, I try not to look at social media when I wake up, but I was up, looked at it, and saw this spectacular footage of the ship collapsing the bridge. And I texted my brother and sister, and I was like, "Is this real? Like this?" Nowadays with AI, or you don't know, but sure
Right.
enough, all these other messages started streaming in. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's unreal! That is a big bridge."
Yeah, and what a crazy time.
Well, people are starting to wake up, Jen. It's happening.
Yeah, yeah,
You
there's a lot.
almost can't help it at this point.
I still see some people that haven't yet. It's
Oh,
like
for sure.
you know that they know something's not okay. Things are weird, but they don't quite know what's weird. Um,
I've noticed more, posts on social media saying, "Okay, I don't know what this is, but it just seems like we're on the crest of something big happening."
and we are. Yeah, and even the astrology, for anyone who's into astrology, the astrology shows this, and astrologers have been saying, a lot about this time period over the last few years, and just like what's to come. And it's bombshells, like a lot of things dropping on us, a lot of awakening, a lot of awareness. So we're calling this the Great Awakening because that's really the time period that we're in, and it's there's a lot of different areas that we've been asleep with. And so this whole idea is truly awakening. And
Sure,
I'm loving this.
and I and I'm no astrologer, but we just had some type of lunar, not eclipse. Is it
Yeah.
eclipse?
Yep.
Okay, and this is all kind of in prelude to the solar eclipse that's happening in week and a half,
Couple
something
weeks.
like that?
Yeah.
Couple
Yeah.
weeks. Is there anything astrologically that you think people would like to know or should know? Because astrology is one of those things that gets sort of poo-pooed as new age, but the more that I've learned about people that actually study it for real and aren't just looking at the Cosmo daily horoscope,
hmm
there's actually a lot of interesting tidbits about it. It's
Well, and
it's legit.
it's very scientific. It's a true study, and it goes back millennia. This is about who we are and where we came from, and what are we here for, and the energies that we work with. That's really what astrology is about. And I'm not an astrologer, so maybe someone could,
Neither am I.
give it a better explanation. But I think it's really important to understand your astrological chart, at least to a certain degree, so that you can understand how things are affecting you, or why does it matter if it's a full moon. They say, whatever, but I know people who work who are police, and people who work in the healthcare industry in the emergency room, and they will say on full moons, it's crazy. People are nuts. And there's a lot more accidents, there's fights. It's just their services are more needed.
For
So
sure.
there is something to the energy, and it really has been
Okay. I
a
want to
lot.
read you something that I read
Okay,
from a
yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
And I used to work at a school, and I could tell when there was a full moon, not because I paid attention to when there's a full moon, but things got crazy. And sure enough, when they would get crazy, I would say, "Is there a full moon?" And I would look it up, and I was convinced at that point that all the studies are like, "Oh, there's no, you know, and nothing, no science to this." Bullshit. Bullshit. And if you ever talk to people like doctors or nurses that are in the hospital, they know.
They
Everyone knows.
know. Hmm.
You don't have people have their experience. But there was a doctor here He's a doctor I like. I won't maybe say his name. Um, he's not, controversial, I don't think, but the human body is 60% water. We know that the moon directly affects water on the planet, including, most obviously, the tides. Am I the first medical doctor to tell you that it's not ridiculous at all to suggest that the moon phase can have a direct effect on anyone's physical and mental health, even your sleep? There's research on this too. So share, he's basically saying like just share your experiences, but it's not something that sometimes we talk about. It's like, okay, this clearly impacts all kinds of things in our bodies, in for females, the cycles and stuff with the lunar moon. Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on with that. The solar eclipse, astrologically, it seems like there's things that are coming in and things that we're sort of being called to let go of.
Well, it definitely feels to me like it's an empowering time as well. The Great Awakening, and I was saying earlier to you, Jim, the Great Awakening really is, in essence, about humanity and souls waking up to the shackles and the falseness of what we've been experiencing. We like to say there's a matrix, it's kind of like becoming aware of the game instead of being the player in the game. But we're really meant to come into our own power spiritually. We're meant to find out who we really are. How did we get here as humans? What is this reality even about? Because it's not what we've been told. We've been programmed and brought in to a certain narrow window of understanding of what this is, and and taught to fight each other. So so
Yeah,
we're
it's a program.
distracted, right? And so a big part of all of this awakening is first realizing that what you think is real probably isn't true, and to start questioning the reality, to start questioning your beliefs and your whole mindset, your whole paradigm about what this is and who's giving you truth and who's not. Because a lot of it has been false. A lot of our history books are false. A lot of what we think is the truth and our foundation of what this is and who we've been all these years, it's not even accurate.
I How do you get red pilled in a benevolent, kind way?
I think that's hard. I
How do
think it
you
I think it's
s
hard because so many things that we think are truth are not. Or so many things that we think certain bad people did, it's actually other people that did it that we thought were good. And they're the ones that actually instigated certain things. And we're trying to keep it really simple here and not go into too many conspiracy theory ideas because, well, we don't want to cause problems with
I know
YouTube.
we dance around it,
We're
but
going to dance. But
I
a
would
lot
love to
of
do it.
truths are going to be coming out, and a lot already have, and more will be coming out over the next couple of years. And it's just the time. It's time to know the truth, and it's time to become aware of what's really been going on. And really, we've all been had. We've all been taught lies. The school system, the higher educational system, business, online social media, everything, the news.
So, that pisses me off,
Yeah. Well, that's a part of the awakening. Good. We need to go through that.
but it also is very frustrating when you're around people, and this is a work for me, that aren't awake with certain things or think they are awake and they vilify certain people or certain things.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got it all wrong. It's not quite like that. Um, and it requires a lot of patience and personal work to sit with that and to be kind and compassionate to those who are operating within the confines of these programs. that exist and have existed for a long time that were manipulated by other beings? Can I say that?
Yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
think you can.
Can I say the word Anunnaki? Is that gonna offend
I
anybody?
don't know. I don't know what all their key terms are, but yeah, we,
Can I say that maybe Dune isn't so much fiction?
say that again?
The movie Dune that just came out?
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That was really good.
Maybe not so much fiction.
Yeah, I wondered that too.
Yeah. Yeah, the Anunnaki and their, well, you mentioned the word enslavement, but that's what we were.
Mhm.
We were created in that way to help mine
Yeah.
for gold.
It's a lot of that history's been purposefully erased or covered up or hidden, and, then we're taught a different history, and none of us have all the answers, including you and me. We don't have all the answers, but and so we still have more awakening to do. We still have more that we're gonna be like, "Wow, I didn't know that."
Sure,
Oh,
but
now it
that
makes more sense.
it's important to be skeptical and have humility with what I think I know and what I don't, right?
Right.
Because there's a lot of things, but there's also once you know that things are being purposely hidden from you, those things
Yeah.
that seem so fringe and conspiracy like are now not so much, right? Like, well, what is that about actually? I'm now more curious. I want to know why.
So it's funny, I started waking up probably about 23 years ago, 24 years ago, somewhere in there,
Mhm.
and, I started recognizing some of the different toxins and ways in which we were getting toxins and how it was actively being covered up by certain people in power, certain agencies. Things were being covered up, and I could not understand why. But what that did is it opened up a doorway for me to look deeper, to go down some rabbit holes. And my husband, for a while, did call me a conspiracy theorist, basically. And so did other people in my family. They thought I was a little bit nuts and a little bit too hardcore or extreme about my ideas and understandings. But because I had done a lot of that research and really dove in and opened up to what the possibilities could be, because honestly, every time I would open a door for more information, everything started to make sense. Like those puzzle pieces fit together. And it became very clear to me that that was truth. It's taken a long time, but a lot of these things that I've been talking about all these years, everyone in my family, at least, and a lot of my people I'm close to, people in business and things like that, they're starting to come forward. And where they used to think I was a little bit off my rocker, they're now starting to be like, oh, I think you were right. And, but you still have those people who still don't get it. And I'm sure still see me as like a conspiracy theorist. But what's interesting is what used to take decades to come out to show that a conspiracy theory is fact. And I'm not saying all conspiracy theories are fact, by the way, but what used to take a long time, now it's a matter of hours sometimes where people start talking about something and then they're called a conspiracy theorist or something like that, or that it's false or misinformation. And then all of a sudden it comes out as fact. And then the spin happens, so everyone's trying to spin it to try to keep it hidden, because that's the thing. We're trying to bring forth what has been hidden, what's been secret, into the limelight and into healing light so that we can understand more about who we are and what all this really is.
Yeah. Oh, to dance around these things, Jen, is not easy.
I know. I'm trying to like be really careful with my words here.
Okay, but, maybe I'll say this. So the ship goes into the bridge today.
Mm.
Was it an accident?
Yeah, it's pretty convenient.
It's an
And I
interesting
feel terrible for everyone involved, and I'm not blaming anybody in particular, by the way, but I
No,
do think it's
and
convenient.
so, obviously, a tragedy,
Mhm,
but now there's questions
mhm.
that
Which
come
should be
up.
asked.
which should be asked.
Mhm.
Um, but that I would say before I was, I'll use the term awake loosely here, but I wouldn't have even thought of it. Like, you know, there's a guy, he's piloting the ship, he's doing it the best of his ability. There's a malfunction. This is an accident. Now it's like not so clear. And
Mhm.
there's so many layers to everything now and how things can be spun a certain way or manipulated or not saying anything about the pilot of the ship who was obviously from here and was very skilled and it sounds like he actually saved lives. So it was like a pretty amazing thing. But it's I think what I wanted to kind of say about it is that now there's more light being thrown at those types of things um
Yeah, because
more quickly.
a lot of the natural disasters or things that have gone down over the years, a lot of people are realizing weren't necessarily accidents or acts of God. And once you start opening that door, you start questioning anything and everything that has ever happened or will happen, and the motivations behind it. There's a lot of deep, dark motivation out there, and they use our asleepness and in our
Well,
ignorance about how things can work. They
going
use it
back
against us.
to the
Yeah.
last episode, we talked about how easily humans are manipulated, right? With emotions. You show something, you capture their fear or anxiety about something, and then you offer a solution and you can
Mhm.
very easily manipulate people.
Yeah,
Oh, we
problem,
got
reaction,
this.
solution. Yeah.
And so if you're not caught up to that or you're very likely to have the wool pulled over your eyes very easily. And I think that's where you see more and more people, or at least I feel like I'm seeing more people question that
Yes. And it's
very
so
very
important.
quickly.
Yeah, it's so important. I think with everything that's gone on the last few years, wow. 4 years ago we were not in this space.
No.
And then all of a sudden 2020 happened. And ever since then, it's been layer upon layer of opportunity to awaken and start to uncover more truth in your own experience in life. So
So,
go ahead.
well, no, I was to say there's the sort of high level conspiracies regarding like, I don't know, the what's the World Economic Forum, right? Like these sort of manipulating these different things on the planet, these sort of darker energies that impact the day to day life. But then there's also the spirituality, right? Which is
Hmm.
how do you foster waking up and also stay grounded throughout this chaotic time, which is crazy.
So, we are in the way my guides like to say it, it's like we are a universe in and of ourselves. And what we experience in this lifetime or in this game, this matrix, whatever it is we're in, it's largely based upon our belief system, what we came here to discover or learn or heal about ourselves, and our paradigm, like how we see things. So, when you're coming into a lot of this information, there are so many different ways you can approach it. A lot of people get angry for a while because we're in that victim state. We feel victimized by those who are obviously causing harm. And it can be frustrating because what people think the bad guy is or the bad people are not necessarily the bad people. In fact, a lot of times it's inverted. And that's part of the spiritual process because the dark or negative side likes to invert things. The positive side wants truth. And it's just one is based in love of self, one is based, back to the law of one is based in love of self, one is based in love of others. And but there's a lot of confusion there. And so it gives lots of opportunities to learn a lot more about yourself and your paradigms and your belief systems, and how do you come into your power and get out of that victim consciousness, because we're all victimized, all of us. We all have been. There have been serious crimes that we have yet to discover, and we're going to know them.
They will come out.
They will come out, a lot of them anyway. And it's important for us to get grounded, to get healed within ourselves, and to look at, because this is our universe of experience, to look at with what's going on within you. And I'm not saying completely ignore everybody out there, but everybody out there has their own universe of experience and their own paradigm and understanding of things. And so the most important thing I think people can do in this time of great awakening is to just really truly go within and take inventory and see where your weak spots are. How are things able to cause harm to you, either mentally, emotionally, physically, in your experience, financially, whatever it is, and then work to heal that as best as you can and come back to love. One of the things I've noticed is that I have to continually remind myself to come back to love and forgiveness. And that's a challenge sometimes. But that
Yes.
is the work. That's the Christ consciousness way. That's what's so important.
Well, that also goes back to the law of one, right? Seeing the
Mhm.
other as the self,
Yeah.
seeing yourself in the other, um, which really, I think, goes back to the golden rule. But how can you hold space for someone who's actively doing harm? And typically, I'm grateful for my meditation practice
Mm.
because it gives me patience and time to try to see things as they are, not as how I want them to be or how I think they are. Right? Like I am aware that there's biases and judgments, but the practice is to learn to be non-judgmental. So that's not something that comes easily. That
No.
you fumble with that constantly. We're constantly judging people. We're also constantly judging ourselves quite
Yes.
harshly.
Yeah, very true.
But how can I see things as they really are and just kind of tune in inward, I think, to okay, what feels right? And there we got to be tricky, right? Like with the last episode, like, but what is loving and what is maybe not? And what is taking away my power and what is empowering? And I think, at least for me, at this time in the Great Awakening, okay, there are some crazy things going on. But the moment you start being stripped of your power or your voice or your autonomy, that's a red flag,
Mhm.
or telling on your neighbor, like just this whole big brother type authoritarian situation that, is one energy on the planet, like working against that actively. You know, do you want to be in alignment with freedom or not? But you have the choice.
Well, and that brings up a good point too. When whatever you resist persists, right? That's something I think about a lot. Like, what am I resisting in my experience? I've always got something I can choose where I'm resisting in some way. And I think that's a big part of what I've been trying to understand more and more deeply as the years go by, is where is my deeper resistance towards things, and I uncover things I had no idea about myself that was even there. And it, one of the things with the two different sides, so you have the positive or the negative, or the light versus the dark, or however you want to look at that. And we could have two sides of a coin in many different topics, politically, spiritually. There's just so many different ways in which you could say it's this or it's that, and to act as if they're against each other. And while on some level that is seems to be true, I think the spiritual journey is really more about making that not the thing. Um, where I'm definitely very pro freedom. I enjoy being able to have body autonomy. I like to choose what I want to do with myself, my life, my money, medically, anything. To me, that should be my choice. And
How dare you?
I know, I know. Well, we've come up against some things certainly over the
I
last few
know.
years that would question that. And I got in fear. I certainly did not like that, and it made me angry that people were accepting that too. Um, but we all have different mindsets and paradigms that we see that problem through. And some people might say, well, if you do a certain thing with your body, you might save others, and that it's selfish not to do that thing. It's selfish to care for yourself and your own well-being over others. And that's the paradigm that they used to try to take away that right, and that freedom of choice. And so there's certain understandings in the Great Awakening where you have to start coming to a place where you don't judge, and you realize your anger is about a fear within you, somebody trying to take something away, or somebody being selfish or causing harm. Wherever it is you're coming at from, whatever different side, it's about realizing the side doesn't matter. That's part of what they've done to try to divide us, to try to keep us from coming together and being in unity as a collective on planet Earth. It's been to divide us, and it takes away our power on so many different levels. And so the way I've been trying to approach it is to not see somebody as the bad guys as much as I can, which is hard sometimes.
Sure,
But
but
to
I like
really
that.
Right, but to really go deeper within and say, okay, so because I see them as a bad guy, that means I'm seeing somebody as a victim, me or somebody else. And if I'm doing that, then that means I'm giving that bad guy my power, or I am disempowering the person I'm seeing as the victim. So I really try to be conscious as much as I can, and I'm certainly not perfect at it, because in the moment I'm like, you know, and then I got to go back and be like, no, 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 no. Okay, that's not, energetically speaking and spiritually speaking, this is not helping the situation. So I'm going to come in and come back at the idea of, I want to empower myself and I want to empower the situation. So that means, all right, get back into love, because you can't have love and judgment in the same space. So how do I come back to love? Okay, where am I in resistance? What am I resisting, and why am I resisting? And so if you can get neutral about some things, and just take the charge out of it for a minute, and then bring your power into what you actually want, but not be in resistance to what you don't want. That's how you put power into your path, your journey, and what you really want to see come forth. So that's been kind of my approach with things. I
I
can't say
like
I'm
it.
perfect.
I like it. It's I think when you it's putting it in integrating it into your daily life, right? Like into the nitty-gritty. Um,
Very true.
this story is popping into my head, so I'm gonna share it. I can't think it's a Buddhist type thing, but I'm not entirely sure. A woman had kidnapped another woman's baby and claimed it as her own, and they were summoned before the king to settle this dispute. And so, in his judgment, the king said, "Listen, you both claim the child as your own, so I'll give you half of the kid and you half of the kid." And so the real mom said, "No, no, 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 right? Like I'm not cutting my kid in half. Just let her have it." The child, and the king then knew who the mom was, right? So it's how do you sift through all of the deception when people are knowingly trying to deceive you and go from this sort of fear space into like seeing what true love is. Like how do you want to manifest that in your life and in your relationships, and really ultimately your relationship with yourself, like how well you're taking care of yourself, knowing that all these things are going on. The water is not clean. The water is poisoned. So you're going to have to put some effort into connecting with ways to put healthier things into your body. Same thing with food, right? Processed foods. healthy foods. Like, we are taking in all these toxins, all these negative things, and you really have to pay attention to that. If you're not, you're not doing yourself the proper service. And these are things that I think are all part of the awakening, where we're being sold one thing. I mean, look at the food pyramid. Give me a break.
Oh, right,
I know we don't
right.
want to get into details about things, but
Talk about an inversion.
you know what I mean? Like,
Right?
that's
Yeah.
just one thing I think people could pretty much agree on, right?
I think most. I still meet people who disagree with what I say about that, but yeah. Yeah.
I just trying to put a like a innocuous kind of dart on something like, okay, maybe that's not the best way, right? Like,
Yeah, but so, like, even with what to eat, gosh, there's so much crazy information out there. It's like, and all of it, and some of it is supposedly scientifically driven, which I think there's a lot of fake science out there. But and it's promoted as
manipulate
it's
science. You can
very
manipulate
manipulated.
data.
And sometimes the summary of the study is completely opposite of what the study's even saying. But most people only read the summary. So they get away with that. So it's just nuts. Um, but that said, you know, even something as simple as what do you feed your body? There's so many different points of view, so much fake science, so many things that just don't make sense or just cause confusion because it's like, should you be vegan? Should you be, only eating meat? Like, what is it? What are you supposed to do? Two very different points of view, and both have medical claims about what's best for you, and very opposite. Like, how do you know what's right? And
Yeah, the food thing is
did you know that? And I don't want to get too deeply into the food right now, but even organic foods are often high in heavy metals, and I'm a big proponent of eating organic because it has less pesticides in it, but it doesn't mean it's actually healthy for us either because they have contaminated everything.
yeah, I mean, I think I brought it up because that's something that we do every day,
Yeah.
right? You're putting food pretty much in your body every day, and we are often poisoning ourselves unwittingly, and
Yeah.
it's crazy to think about. Just, you trust that you're being told honest things about, this food is organic or it's healthy, and that's not always the case.
Yeah. It's really not.
So it's not that, eat organic is bad, right? Or even just
Mhm. I think it's a step better, generally speaking, than eating conventional, but it's
there's
still
more
not
to the
great.
story.
There's a lot of work to do still. Yeah.
Yeah, there's in the process of awakening, there's more to the story. There's deepening. A lot of times, people want to learn about mindfulness, and it's a relatively simple concept, but it is very challenging to actually look at your life and peel the layers of the onion back. It's uncomfortable, and people don't really want to do it all the time. And part
Well,
of the awakening is making you look at things that are really uncomfortable, that are
yes.
about considering your beliefs and how you might have been lied and manipulated, and or argued with people like, "This is the way, this is the person, this is the politics that is right, and you are full of it," and to realize, "Wait a minute, I got duped? Come on."
Mhm.
That's that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not fun, but it's we're forced at this time to grow. And so the great awakening is about that process, and we need to we need to just roll with it and stop fighting it.
There was there was a couple of podcasts that I listened to that I really like. One was Danica Patrick, the former race car driver.
Yes, she's
Sh
awesome.
she had Bashar on, and, um, essentially what he was saying is that don't don't spend all your energy diving into these conspiracy theories.
Mhm.
they're going to come to light. Um, and she kind of fought him on it. She was like, I love a good conspiracy theory. Like, I don't want to let that go." Like, which I get, right? Like, do you really want to devote all your time to that? And I think so there was a balance with that where it was like, just know that those things are out there. You don't have to tumble down the rabbit hole and get stuck because you will get stuck. Um, and I
It's
think
easy
that was
to, but I can also see what Danica was saying too, because, you using the example of the medical intervention that happened in 2021 or at the end of 2020, and but really took off in 2021. Um, Trying to speak in code,
right.
dance around the topic a little bit, but if you get what I'm saying, if you were not already actively looking for that information or aware of the possible dangers of that, you probably got it.
Well, you're talking to me, which,
Well
yeah.
yeah, okay, but I was lucky enough 23 years ago to have been awakened, because of my son who went through,
Sure.
some injury. And, so I was already given that blessing, and my whole family was. So we all, pretty much all of us, questioned it and did not just go out and do it. And this is where, I think you can dive into something and get lost and get so frustrated and angry, when you start realizing what's really going on because you were so duped and so programmed. And we all have been. So don't think there's none of us here that
No
have
judgment.
not had it, right? Um, when you start uncovering information, what I would say is I have like a mix of Bashar and Danica there. Like I feel it's important for us to look at these things and to look for truth and to be a truth seeker. Um, but getting lost in it and angry and lost in the emotion, I think that's a lot of times where we go wrong. Um, the truth comes out way later after people have been harmed. So if you can be ahead of that curve and not be one of the ones to get harmed, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing if you catch it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the good news is there will be more to follow.
Yeah.
So, they
That's true. Yeah.
in a lot of different realms. And, what else did I wanna say? Oh, so there was the not diving into conspiracy theories in a like, energetically, so paying attention to your energy and where you're putting your focus, because that's what you can control in your daily life. And then there was I think her name is Pamela Arlen.
Mm.
She is a very gifted, channeler and remote viewer, and she
Okay.
was on Interview with ED with Ruben Langdon, who actually just was in, Sedona, and there was a really cool Ascension summit out there, um, with, like, Maureen St. Germain and Linda Moulton Howe and a lot of I think Bashar might have been there. But, anyway, he had this woman on, Pamela Arlen, who remote viewed a future human and shared about all of these things that we're talking about now and how they unfold in the next few years, and it was utterly fascinating. Um, kind of what we're talking about. These things, the light will, you know, shine through all these dark type things. It's unfolding, but it's unfolding now, which is really why I wanted to touch on these things because if you look around in the news and everything else, and I try to be hesitant about news consumption, but there's a lot of things happening right now. And so it can be quite scary if you don't know that this is happening.
Well, and what I find interesting is that there are so many things happening that people are not aware of because of the type of news that they listen to. I think the more mainstream something is, it tends to be honestly the less accurate.
Oh,
Um,
it's
and it's
literally
it's more conjecture than it is something provable. And but the more you get into, the people who really do actual research, like really true investigative journalism, they've got the receipts to back it all up. But you're not going to hear about that on the more conventional channels. So
well, in terms of performance, right? When you get labeled a conspiracy theorist or you're being told or you're, being actively smeared, you sharpen your sword pretty quick, right? Like I can't make these claims without evidence.
right. I mean,
So
there
I
are
think
some
there's a counter.
conspiracy sites out there that are just ridiculous.
Oh, for sure.
There
And
are some that I
yeah,
think were purposely put out there to confuse and muddy the waters. Um, so you got to be
so
careful where you
you
get
do have to be
information from.
careful. Pick
But
and
that means
choose.
looking for somebody who's actually doing the research, who's actually got evidence and proof and not conjecture, which almost everything on a conventional channel nowadays, it's almost all conjecture. It takes a little piece of something, it's not even necessarily truth, and then blows it up and makes it a thing. And then they have 48 hours of talking about a thing that really wasn't really a thing. you know, and you're just like, okay, what am I even listening to? I don't get it. Okay. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Would it be okay, do you think, if I share someone who I think is actually diving in and doing the research and sharing something that's fascinating to me?
sure.
There's a guy named Ashton Forbes, and he is studying the disappearance of the Malaysian airliner,
Oh, wow.
and it's
Interesting.
what I can't remember the flight
Yeah, I don't
number.
remember the flight either.
Anyway, he's got fascinating footage and has been doing a ton of research, and he would never say it's aliens. However, some of the footage he has, there's like these 3 craft hovering around, um, the airliner, and all of a sudden it
Wow.
disappears. And his sort of claim is like, this is clearly some technology that exists, and he's more science-based and trying to, like, figure out, well, what is that? But that whole thing is utterly fascinating because I can remember when that flight disappeared, I think it was Don Lemon on CNN, said something like, "What if aliens took the ship or whatever?" And I remember thinking, "What? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." But, like, later on, I'm like, "Oh, wait, it's
Maybe.
maybe not aliens, but some this thing did just disappear." So and, there's been people that claim they found parts or whatnot, but it is fascinating footage. So if look him up, he puts all his stuff online on social media and is very serious about it. And it's one of those things that's like, okay, what do we not know? What else?
Well, this reminds me too of the idea that when, well, as humans, we like to have a foundation of understanding. It's because it's almost like if we don't have that, it's too destabilizing. We don't know where we are. We can't navigate this world without some sort of foundational paradigm of what this is, right? And what you and I are suggesting is that people are they're going to tip over their apple cart and they're going to have to create a new foundation, and that's not comfortable. In fact, it can be really scary, and people will hold on to that foundation with everything they have no matter what truth they're shown, because they do not want to experience that fear of not having a foundation. So what are your thoughts on that?
You have to trust yourself, and come into your own power, I guess, and just believe that things are going in the right direction. I think some things are going to sound fantastical and just utter disbelief. I would say don't hold your breath. Uh, but the Mark Twain quote, "The truth is stranger than fiction."
Hmm.
All of these things are going to be coming out, and I'm super excited about it,
Yeah.
but yeah, get ready. And don't overcomplicate it. Some of the things that we might share might, you know, really, I don't know, it could be upset your beliefs or kind of, go against the grain with some of what you have been told. Um, we keep an open mind with everything.
I have to say, in my journey, what I've noticed is the more triggered I am about what somebody says, the more I realize I need to look at what they said.
Sure.
It doesn't mean it's necessarily true, what they said, but there's something there for me to discover and to release my resistance around. So I think it's really important just to, if something that we've said has triggered somebody, first off, we're sorry. But secondly,
I'm
question
not.
that in yourself. Yeah. Okay, I should speak for myself. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to trigger anybody on purpose. But I do hope that all of us, everyone who might listen to this, that they experience the frequency of being the truth seeker instead of the paradigm defender, and really find truth that you can stand on. Because once you really build a foundation on true information or a greater truth or a higher wisdom, you no longer need that old paradigm that was not good to begin with. It was
Yeah.
crumbling already.
Well, there's more to come on this. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. And till next time, Jen, we will see what else unfolds, right? In the
Yeah,
Great
what do they
Awakening.
say? Heads on a swivel.
Keep your head on the swivel. What's
Yeah.
happening? Quick.
Yeah. All right. See you, Jim.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
We are so grateful that you joined us. Check out the description to learn more about us and also for additional resources to help you on your journey.